Coast Guard, the police, all the deacons, and the mothers. Lucky even drafted the usher boy down to find this baby. Preacher come to town here. I hope ain't nothing happened to this boy. We don't know about these northern folk here in Memphis. We can leave the door. But I don't know about this place. Mama was scared because the boy was missing. So my sister Barbara, she walks upstairs and she looked in the box and she come and she said, "Daddy." So I can imagine the effect that had on Mary when a 9-year-old boy that's in her child turns up missing. But you see, as the spiritual drama unfolds, she goes and she backtracks and she finds Jesus, a 9-year-old boy, sitting in the temple asking and answering hard questions. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. When I asked, why did you do that to me and Joseph? Why did you do that to me and your dad? And he said, is it not time that I was about my father's business? All right, brother. Yes, that opened the door for the rest of his life. Now the cat's out the bag. Now you know who I am. The angel already told you who I am. You are Jews, you know the scripture, you know what I came for. So I must be about my father's business. And at that moment on, he was on his way to this cross. From the time he left mom and daddy, he was on his way to Calvary. From the time he was a little boy, he realized that I've got to die. I've got to die. I've got a purpose in this life. My purpose is to drink the bitter cup of sin for all mankind. As he stood there on the cross. As he stood there on the cross. Still tasting the bitter cup of sin. As he stood there on the cross. And one moment you see, he tried to travel things out. He said, "Oh Lord, why hast thou forsaken me?" As he hung there on the cross. And then they pierced him in his side, and mother's watching. She sees all this. She's hurt. Oh, my baby. Yes, sir. My son. My baby. They're going to do this to him. I know who you are. The angel already told me that you came for a divine purpose. I went on and I endured the hardship of having to explain my new shape to everybody that was wondering. I had to explain to Job. I had to explain, but after the manger, all that was there was me and my child. All right, Reverend. Good picture. Me and my child. Me and my child. Yes. If Barack Obama's mother was alive, I'm pretty sure she would not call him Mr. President. All right. It's my child. Yes, sir. It's my child. My child. But as she stood there and jumped, as they stood there and looked up at this horrific scene, as they stood there and looked into the face that they vaguely remembered because it had been so brutally beaten and scarred, they could not even recognize him because the Roman soldiers had fun with it. Well. As they looked at this body, it used to be a carpenter's son. As they looked at this body here, they couldn't realize, couldn't fathom why this is going on. We are believers, but they are not. That's right. Because I believe Mary knew full well why the Romans hated him. The Romans hated him because he brought dissension in the masses. That's right. The Romans hated him because he went against Caesar. How can you say that you are God and Caesar is God? All right. The Romans hated him because they felt like with him in the way, they couldn't get total control over the Middle East. Right. Because of Jesus, like unified them against them. Why would he? She already knew. She heard the stories. She heard the stories. She knew that the Jews hated him because he messed with the money in the temple. All right. He knew that the Jews hated him. Paul, how can you be Son and God be one and the same? They believed in the law, so they hated him and wanted to get him out of the way so we can get back to business and use it.
All right, brother.
Crucify him. Crucify him. So Mary. So Mary. She knew what was going on. Mary was in the marketplace. Mary was in the marketplace. And I'm sure she could hear the conversations with the other women at the market. She would listen here and there. She'd pick up certain things. Here's some things you tune out because they're too ugly. But she heard somebody say that he was water in dry places. She heard somebody in the marketplace say that he was bread in a starving land. Somebody said he was shelter in the time of a storm. Someone said he was a burden bearer and a heavy load sharer. She heard the word that somebody said he was King of Kings and Lord of Lords. She heard the conversations of the righteous saying, he is Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. She heard those words, but now she stands at the cross. She stands at the cross in the 11th hour when Jesus made those immortal last words. Mother, this now is your son. Disciple, this now is your mother. So he was making preparations, and Jesus being Jesus, I knew he knew full well what he was doing. He had a